Imagine standing in a narrow mountain road with 299 other warriors beside you. You hold your shield tight, your spear ready. Far in front of you, the ground shakes. The sound grows louder and louder like thunder. An army is coming. Not just a few thousand soldiers. A massive army so big it stretches farther than you can see. Tens of thousands of warriors marching together like a giant wave. And you? You are only one of 300 Spartans. It sounds like a story from a movie, but this actually happened over 2,500 years ago in ancient Greece at a place called Thermopylae. Somehow, these warriors and their allies managed to slow down one of the biggest armies the world had ever seen. But the real story isn't just about fighting. It's about smart strategy, teamwork, courage, and a shocking betrayal that changed everything. And by the end of this story, you'll understand how 300 soldiers became one of the most famous legends in history. Long ago, there was a powerful empire called Persia. It was one of the largest empires the world had ever known. The Persian Empire stretched across huge lands from parts of Asia all the way to Egypt. Millions of people lived under Persian rule. The ruler of this empire was King Xerxes. Xerxes wanted to expand his empire even more. But there was one place that kept causing problems: Greece. Greece wasn't a single country like today. It was made up of many independent cities such as Athens, Sparta, and Corinth. Each city had its own leaders and armies. The Greeks loved their freedom and did not want to be ruled by Persia. Years earlier, the Persians tried to conquer Greece but lost a famous battle called Marathon. King Xerxes never forgot that defeat. So he decided to invade Greece again, but this time with an army so huge that no one could stop it. Historians believe Xerxes brought somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000 soldiers. Imagine a giant river of people marching together: soldiers, archers, cavalry, and warriors from many different lands. It was one of the biggest armies ever seen in the ancient world. The Greeks knew they could not defeat such a massive army in an open field. So they came up with a clever plan. Instead of fighting anywhere, they would fight in a very narrow place where the Persians could not use their numbers. That place was called Thermopylae. Thermopylae was a mountain pass squeezed between tall cliffs and the sea. In some places, the road was only about 50 feet wide. This was important, because when an army is huge, it usually wins by surrounding the enemy and attacking from many sides. But in a narrow pass like Thermopylae, that is impossible. Only a small number of soldiers can fight at once. This meant the giant Persian army would have to fight the Greeks a few soldiers at a time. And if there was one group of warriors perfect for this kind of battle, it was the Spartans. Spartans were famous across Greece for being incredible fighters. In Sparta, boys did not grow up like normal children. When Spartan boys turned 7 years old, they were sent to begin harsh training called the agoge. They learned to fight, survive outdoors, endure pain, and obey orders without question. Life was extremely tough. They often had little food and were pushed to their limits every day. But this training turned them into some of the toughest warriors in the ancient world. By the time a Spartan became an adult soldier, he had trained for many years. These men were disciplined, fearless, and loyal to each other. When the Persian invasion began, the Spartan King Leonidas led 300 Spartan soldiers to Thermopylae. But the Spartans were not alone. About 7,000 Greek soldiers from other cities joined them. Together they prepared to defend the narrow pass. Soon, the enormous Persian army arrived. The sight must have been terrifying. Thousands upon thousands of soldiers filled the land. King Xerxes looked at the small Greek force blocking the pass and thought they would run away in fear. But something surprising happened. The Persians noticed the Spartans doing something strange. They were calmly exercising and combing their hair. To the Persians, this looked crazy. Why would soldiers fix their hair before a battle? For Spartans, it was a tradition. They believed warriors should look their best before fighting. It also showed they were calm and ready to face whatever came. Xerxes expected the Greeks to surrender, so he waited. 1 day passed. 2 days. 3 days. 4 days. Still the Greeks refused to move. Finally, Xerxes became impatient and ordered his army to attack. The Persian soldiers rushed forward into the narrow pass. But the Greeks were ready. The Spartan soldiers fought in a special formation called a phalanx. Imagine soldiers standing side by side with large shields locked together. Their spears stuck out in front like a wall of sharp spikes. Anyone who ran toward them would hit a solid wall of shields and spears. When the Persian soldiers attacked, they slammed straight into this defensive wall. The Spartans pushed forward step by step. Spears struck enemies. Shields blocked attacks. The narrow pass made it impossible for the Persians to surround them. Wave after wave of Persian soldiers tried to break through. But they failed again and again. Even the king's elite warriors, known as the Immortals, were sent in. These soldiers were considered the best fighters in the Persian Empire. But even they could not break the Greek defense. For 2 entire days, the smaller Greek army held back the massive Persian force. But then something terrible happened. A Greek man named Ephialtes betrayed his own people. He told the Persians about a hidden mountain path that went around the pass. That night, Persian soldiers quietly marched along the secret trail. By morning, they had moved behind the Greek army. King Leonidas soon learned the terrible news. The Greeks were now surrounded. There was no escape. Leonidas knew the battle was lost. But he also knew something important. If they stayed and fought, they could delay the Persians longer. That extra time could allow the rest of Greece to prepare its defenses. So Leonidas made a brave decision. He told most of the Greek soldiers to retreat and return home. They could live to fight another day. But Leonidas and his 300 Spartans stayed behind. About 700 soldiers from the city of Thespae also refused to leave. These warriors knew they would probably die. But they chose to stay and fight anyway. The final battle began. The Greeks fought with incredible courage. Their spears broke during the fighting. So they switched to swords. When swords broke, they kept fighting with anything they could. King Leonidas himself was killed during the battle. But the Spartans and their allies continued fighting even after their king fell. Eventually, the remaining Greek soldiers gathered on a small hill. They were surrounded by thousands of enemies. But they refused to surrender. Finally, King Xerxes ordered his archers to end the fight. Thousands of arrows were fired into the sky. The arrows rained down like a storm. When it was over, the last defenders of Thermopylae had fallen. All 300 Spartans were gone. At first, it looked like Persia had won. But the battle had changed something important. The brave stand at Thermopylae had delayed the Persian army. That delay gave the rest of Greece time to prepare. Soon after, the Greek navy defeated the Persians in a huge sea battle called Salamis. Later, the Persian army was defeated again at the Battle of Plataea. In the end, the Persian invasion failed. Greece remained free. And the story of the 300 Spartans became one of the most famous stories in history. These warriors knew they could not win. But they fought anyway to protect their homeland and their people. Their bravery inspired generations of people for thousands of years. Even today, people remember the story of Thermopylae as a symbol of courage, teamwork, and standing strong even when the odds seem impossible. The 300 Spartans didn't just fight a battle. They created a legend that the world still talks about today. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to hear another incredible story from history, check out the next video where we explore how Alexander the Great later defeated the Persian Empire that once defeated the Spartans.